In this video, we take the Sequoia from this to this.
Stop it. We're not saying that on camera.
The 2012 Sequoia is a huge family SUV. It is by far the biggest vehicle we've ever owned in our family, and it's arguably one of the biggest vehicles I've ever driven. It has a ton of space. In fact, in one of my previous videos, we covered that it has over 18 cup holders. That's a lot. But if you're building your second gen Sequoia out to go overlanding or off-roading or whatever, kind of like how we are doing, you can always use more space. Today, we're gonna go over two huge upgrades that unlock a ton of space on the second gen Toyota Sequoia. First and foremost, you can already assume that if you're going to be doing these upgrades, you're going to have some sort of roof rack. Now, it's not a must to have any sort of like rear platform built out here. We have shipping blankets over ours just to keep it soft for the doggos. It's not a must to have rear molle panels, but eventually you can run out of space where you're going to throw all your stuff. So today we're going to install two huge things for the Sequoia: a shelf attic for the upper part of the rear part of the vehicle, and then secondly, we're going to install an outside rear molle panel. That's going to store things like our recovery gear, maybe even our diesel heater, maybe even our propane tank. And the reason why we're doing that is because eventually we're going to run out of space in this build. Yes, we built a rear sleeping platform here. Yes, we have storage underneath it, as you can see, and we have storage in the front, but this isn't a truck, this is an SUV, and eventually you just kind of run out of places to put stuff. And having a rear shelf attic here allows easier access than reaching all the way up into that molle panel there and getting my flashlight. I could just reach in and grab it. And having an exterior molle panel allows me, once I have my awning open, which I've removed from the car here to speed up the install, I can stay under the awning, have access to my molle panel here, get what I want to get out of it. Maybe I can hang a cooking set from it. Maybe I can put my propane tank on it and then run my fire pit down here. All this is kind of making the under awning situation a lot more convenient. What we got here is the Prospeed rack rear attic for the second gen Sequoia. Now, there are some brands that make a rear attic for the second gen Sequoia. The reason why we went with Prospeed is they're a US based company. They respond to DMs, emails. They're actually real people who work there. If we have any issues, we could just call them. They could fix it for us. And seeing that this was made for the second gen Sequoia really got us jazzed. And so we're gonna throw this in. We've already opened up the box here, so let's see if she'll pop open. Boom. Packed very well. Has a really nice finish on it. Nice little powder coating finish here. PR for Prospeed rack. Now, I didn't get sponsored by Prospeed rack. I actually reached out to them and told them I was going to film this video, and they were stoked on it. And that's about it. My opinions in this video are totally unbiased. And if it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it's great, and I'll tell you. But other than that, the rack wasn't too much. In fact, I'll throw the price in the video here. It shipped in 2 weeks, and it's got pretty good quality so far. It's my first time seeing it, and it comes with a padded bag of hardware. So let's cut open this bag of hardware. Maybe there's instructions in here, and we can start the install. Okay, we got the box open, and it looks like it's just this. 2 brackets here, and some bolts. I'm gonna go reference real quick and see online if there's any install instructions on this. I didn't see any in the box, but I don't think it's gonna be that hard. Honestly, I think these brackets right here come with more hardware, and I think these 2 holes go here, depending on the height that you want, and then these holes go on the handle holes. I've installed attics like this before in my GX470. It's pretty simple. It's well designed. That means everything should bolt up right pretty easily. It shouldn't take too long. Yeah, usually when I say that, I jinx myself, but let's see if we can get this going. Could not find any instructions online, but the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the cover here and access the bolts to remove the door handle. The trick to getting these off is start on the sides, not the top here. As you can see, I kind of scratched the plastic. Start on the sides, and it should just kind of pop out sideways, and then you can get access to the clip, it looks like, that holds the handle in. All right, now that these have been pushed out of the way, there are 2 clips here. Here's one clip, and it looks like the whole handle just kind of sits on that clip. There's another clip. Let's see if we can get this one off. And boom, it came out just like that. Wow, I honestly cannot believe that this entire handle is held on by just clips. So to remove the clips, once you get those plastic parts off, then you squeeze the clip as hard as you can and it just pops out of the slot there. And you can see there's actually no hardware, no bolts whatsoever for this rack back here. Kind of scary because now we're gonna have to figure out a way to put a bolt in here and make it secure. You take the little T here, slide it into the slot, it'll kind of like wiggle in and then it pops in and you're good to go. So the only hard part of this install is really that back one, and I think it's because the factory tolerances on my car were just super tight. But this one, it just popped right on in. So we can put that bolt back and we can move on to the other side. All right, with the hardware hanging through, we're gonna try and get them through this and through that. And then we can kind of put this up like so, and then we can tighten the hardware. All right, we got the bracket on here, and I got a little extendo, and those are 4mm Allen holes, and it's not tight by any means, so I can kind of adjust when I put the rack on, but I just wanted to have it sit there so that way I know what to do when I get to the other side. So let's move on to here and pop the covers, pop the handle out, and do the same thing with the T-bolts. All right, let's see if these T-bolts go in this time. They went in on the front one much easier than the back one last time. Let's see. No, the back one's kind of a pain in the butt. All right, the back one went in with some massaging. Let's see if we can pop the front one in. There might be some T-bolt pros watching this saying, how the hell do you not know how to put in T-bolts? I honestly don't know how to put in T-bolts. All right, both of those Johnnies are in there. Oh God. This was harder than I thought. Man, if there were only just regular bolts like every other Toyota, this would have been the easiest thing in the world. But they're not, they're T-bolts. And your hands are gonna get rough, and your Sequoia might have more tolerances in those holes than mine. That was hard. All right, we got both brackets on, and now it's gonna be a matter of lifting the basket to go into either one of these bolts here. I'm gonna use the bottom bolts. Yes, we have dogs, they might hit their heads, but if I move the basket too high, I'm gonna run into loading issues to get up over this curve here. So I want it low so it's easier to put things in the basket. There's a lip here to keep things from falling out, but I'm gonna go with the lower setting. Also, I think it's gonna be easier for me to reach with my hands. All right, doing this by yourself is kind of hard. The rack isn't necessarily light, and so in order for me to get it in, I had to kind of do a yoga pose here. Hold that with my foot, align these in, tighten those, and now that it's kind of in place, I can move to the other side by holding it up with my hand and just kind of scooting my butt over. And the way I had to install this other side was literally like yoga pose my foot up, hold it with my hand, and then get the bolt through. I haven't tightened these bolts yet, but you can see this thing that scares me about this is if this shifts, or if I don't tighten that enough, or heaven forbid, I'm just bad at, or I don't like check on these, I'm afraid that that bolt might loosen up and then end up here. And if that's the case, this whole thing is gonna fall down. And so that kind of that design scares me. I mean, I get it for ease of install, like you put the bolt through and then you slide it, but it would be better if it was opposite. If the bigger hole was in here and then this was the smaller channel. Because then as load goes on this, it will tighten instead of get bigger. I don't know if I have the brackets on backwards. I don't know. I mean, they seem to be they seem to be the same exact brackets. I don't know if rotating them would, maybe I did it backwards. This just scares me a lot. All right, the final point, once you get the sides bolted up, is get in here with a hand Allen and crank down on this bolt here. An automated Allen or like an Allen on my impact or ratcheting wrench was just too big and wouldn't fit. So I have to go 1/4 turn at a time here. There we go. I have to go 1/4 turn at a time here to tighten this up, just to make sure that this is safe. I kind of hate this angle. I hate doing the sit-up, but that's what it's gonna take to tighten it down. And that's what we're gonna do. And just to make sure that it's tight, listen for rattles. That's great. All right, we got the attic installed. Overall, it took me a little bit over an hour to do it, and that's because of the T-bolts that go into where the handle clips go. If this was like a Land Cruiser or a GX, those are actually threaded holes there, and you could throw a bolt in. It makes life a lot easier. And the space in here was a little awkward. I mean, I have my fridge slide, I have my cargo area here, and I just had to like do yoga moves to get it in, but it's in and it looks pretty sturdy. And that's gonna be a huge unlock when we go camping or overlanding. We have a shelf here and a lip in the front, so things won't fall out the back, things won't fall forward, especially like accelerating or hitting the trail. I know already what we're gonna put in here. We're gonna put dog leashes and we're gonna put bedding and jackets. So when my wife and I go, we'll always just throw like jackets up in here, leashes and bedding. And the reason why it's kind of out, it doesn't get dusty from all the dog stuff or get fur all over it from all the dog stuff, and it's easily accessible. I need a jacket, I just go in and I grab a jacket. So fast forward situation, we took the dogs on a walk, we threw the wet towels up there and the dog leashes up there, and it works perfectly. Good place for wet towels because it's warmer up there than it is down here. It dries them off. Stoked. Oh my gosh. We got that part done. Now it's time to throw on the exterior molle. All right, the Prospeed exterior molle is pretty dope because it literally fits the factory window size perfectly. You can throw on other molles. You can throw on an exterior molle from a 4Runner. It'll probably go to about there. You could go Land Cruiser, it will be a different shape, but the Prospeed one is perfect. Now this is not a Prospeed rack, this is a Sherpa rack. Highly recommend Sherpa. Honestly, one of the best racks I've ever used in my life. But we're gonna see if the hardware that comes with this will actually fit up to the Sherpa or not. I gotta say, this bracket here is really, really beefy. I really like how beefy this bracket is, and I'm hoping it gives me options to bolt it towards the front of this exterior molle here instead of the back. These little suction guys actually do not hold any load, and a lot of people think like, oh well, the suction on your window will help disperse the load. No, these are just to isolate the molle from rattling. You can see that there's a threaded bolt, or actually a locking bolt here, and a little thread that'll go through any of these channels here, go through, you tighten it up, hopefully put a washer on there, and that'll stabilize this. I love that they give you two, because you can always use more than one of these when you're stabilizing a load. And I love how thick this bracket is here. This should really, really help disperse the load. Before we go any further, I can already tell you, I don't need instructions here. These little bolts, or these little channels, will go with the horizontal channels on the top of the molle there, and then you'll kind of put it in position. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my life a lot easier, and I'm gonna go and see if this will even bolt up to our rack first before I go any further. That's way forward, let's move it over. It looks like my awning mount hits, which is kind of a bummer. Just realized something fun, but even if I did move the awning mount to there, if I have this bracket going in and up, it's gonna hit the awning. So I'm forced to go to the other side. The good thing about this is it may seem backwards to you now, but on any side. How perfect was that? You just flip it around. So it looks like I will have a lot more clearance to do what I need to do on this side, and that bracket should be bolting in there ever so perfectly. I will give you a pro tip. First, put this in here, then put the molle panel on this and figure out the height. Then take everything off, put the molle panel on here securely, and put everything on here at once, because it will be impossible for you to get your hands in here and start tightening things once you get everything in here. I learned that with my last one. It took me forever, so just do that first. Trust me on this. As we put this in position, which is, let's say we're gonna put it here, it's nice and centered. I mean, you can even move it further back if you want it to be truly centered on there. You're gonna see the bolts for the crossbars are in the way. So you got to remove those two bolts, and then they will thread through this perfectly. And you can kind of adjust where you want it to go. I'm going to go back a little bit so it's a little bit more center. And then you can pop this in place. Don't try to bolt this against your rack with those there. You're just gonna bend around them. It's gonna be a bad time. I'm pretty sure those are 5 mil Allens, not 4. They are a real beefy hardware because Sherpa goes big on everything. So let me go about removing those now. All right, I sort of just mocked it up. It's still pretty loose, you can see here. And that's because, there we go. I want it to be right about there when I get it on. Now I'm gonna put on the molle panel and see how it's loosey-goosey, it's not hard. And I'm gonna thread in some bolts and see if I can get them finger tight just to get it in place. Then I'll bolt everything to this, get the height right, and then I'll take it off the rack and put everything back together. It's gonna be so impossible to get your hand in here behind the molle to tighten all this. So let me just mock it up, tighten it in place just so it won't move, and then redo it all off the car. All right, I took this into the car and threw on 2 bolts through it to kind of lock it in place. And I went to the side of the car and measured it. And let's see if we can do this one-handed. This is gonna be pretty hard. Here we go. And it bolts up absolutely perfectly. Look at that. All right, we got everything bolted up to the bracket. We got the little suction johnnies on to stabilize it. It's raining today, as you can tell, so those are gonna love the moisture. We'll push those against the car. You can actually install those and then put them through, but I'm gonna just leave them on for now because again, they just stabilize the load, so I'm not worried about anything. If they come off, then I'll take off the bolts and redo them. But now that we got this in place, I measured. Time to throw this on. The roof rack crossbars are gonna go through here, and then I have 1 extra bolt to go through here, and we should be good to go. All right, she's looking good. I really wanted to put that on the other side so we could use it for the awning, but I realized the awning is just so big, there's no way it's gonna clear. If we had like a smaller awning, maybe that'll work, but this will still give us a ton of versatility. We can still put the propane tank on here. We can still mount a lot of things on here. We can still rock the diesel heater on here. Let's do one finishing touch on this. All right, there we go. Oh, that is looking mint. Look at that. Load is nice and stable in there. You can see it comes off the rack just fine. Plenty of dispersion there. Look at that angle. So if we were gonna load this up, you know, it would just slide down the glass, but this can absorb the load here. Very stoked, very, very stoked. Heck, I could even put max tracks on this. This looks mint. All right, it's time to enjoy the fruits of our labor. I think I may have installed that backwards, but I don't really care. I kind of like that it has more of a lip in the back than the front because it sits down like this. So we're just gonna roll with that. We got a sick molle panel on the side. That's a Prospeed rack, side window molle panel, paired with a Sherpa rack, roof rack. And you know, there might be, you could probably put a crossbar here or move this forward a little bit, adjust the mounts a little bit so that way you have the crossbars that bolted in place. I might actually do that. I might move this crossbar here so I actually get a lot more torque on this so it carries more load. As you can see, the washers for the crossbar bolts are a lot wider than what I got going on here. But overall, I think that's pretty trick. I might even get another crossbar from Sherpa and just throw one in there, and that way everything is perfect. But I'm very, very excited and very stoked on how this looks. Makes the Sequoia look so much more mean. Oh, dude, so stoked. If you have a Sequoia and you want a little bit more space, definitely got to throw in one of those attic storage shelves. You could throw jackets, you could throw leashes, you could throw bedding, you can throw pillows, you could throw all up there so it's out of the way. It doesn't really get muddy when you get in and out of your Sequoia. And a side window molle, and we're gonna throw on possibly the diesel heater, possibly the propane tank. Actually, for sure, the propane tank is gonna go here when we travel, so we don't have to carry the propane in the vehicle with us. And it's gonna unlock a lot more possibilities for storing while we're camping. We can even throw on things on the outside like extra lighting, all that stuff, even a fishing pole mount. We love to fly fish, throw it on there. Super stoked that we got one of those on there. The Sequoia is rocking and rolling. Thanks so much for watching. We got more Sequoia goodies coming. We got some suspension goodies on the way, and we got more trail rides to do this year. So it's gonna be a wild journey with the Sequoia. I can't wait to take it out some more, and we will see you guys on the next one.